Now you might have heard of NFL Europe. You know, the one that started as a developmental league for the NFL in Europe in the 90s and that died a horrible death. I explore whether or not that same league could work today.
Ninh explains, could NFL Europe work today as an NFL developmental league?
With the recent demises in the AAF and the XFL, although there are some sources that say that this isn't quite over yet, could the NFL theoretically bring back NFL Europe? And furthermore, if they do, could it work?
To answer that, we have to look at why it went wrong in the first place. But before that, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell, thank you very much. Yes, they needed a league to develop their players for the NFL, but they did that whilst trying to get an international following. All they had to do was export undrafted college and NFL fringe players across the Atlantic and let them develop out there. So long as they didn't totally suck, it was bound to work. This had never been done before, but was ambitious and just about crazy enough to work. On paper, this seemed like a good idea. So, in 1991, NFL Europe started life as the World League of American Football. This consisted of 6 American teams, 1 Canadian team, and 3 teams in Europe, the Barcelona Dragons, the Frankfurt Galaxy, and the London Monarchs. Spain, Germany, and the UK had little to no prior experience, culture, or exposure to American football. Each country has a strong soccer culture, and American football wasn't even a thing. The NFL knew this at the time and pushed heavily on all the pageantry that comes with American football. Tailgating parties with rock bands that start 4 hours before games, helicopters delivering game balls, foxy cheerleaders, elephants carrying the World Bowl on its tusks, yes, that actually happened, and alcohol. Lots and lots of alcohol. The Europeans reacted positively around this new kind of football, with the copious amounts of partying and alcohol, particularly in Frankfurt and London. Speaking of London, at the old historic Wembley Stadium, 61,000 watched as the London Monarchs beat the undefeated Barcelona Dragons 21-0 to win the inaugural World Bowl. The British fans went nuts. They really got behind the team, and the fact that they were winners in their first ever season started a new generation of American football fans. There's a reason why the NFL keeps coming back to London, but more on that in another video. By the end of the second season, however, the crowds dropped massively. The 3 European teams were doing quite well in terms of attendances and performances, but the North American teams, not so much. Whilst developmental standard American football was passable to Europeans who'd never seen it before, that doesn't really apply to North America, who actually know how American football is supposed to be played. Pretty soon, North American fans showed their appreciation by not showing up. And even the players didn't want to play. Because there's one thing that nobody figured out about a transatlantic league. It's a damn long way to get to the games. Not only was the time zone difference terrible to deal with, but transport back then wasn't as efficient as it is now. And teams spent sometimes as much as 4 days travelling to the next game. Players and coaches hated it, and it wasn't too long before it reflected in their performances. With league costs spiralling out of control, they pulled the plug due to financial reasons. But the concept wasn't done there. The NFL decided to bring it back in 1995, and this time based the league entirely in Europe. This meant that adding more teams from the continent, the Rhine Fire, the Amsterdam Admirals, and the Scottish Claymores. This negated the time difference, with a whole 1 hour time difference between the teams, and the costs significantly dropped in terms of travel and time. So, problems averted, the league can flourish, right?
Nope, this is the point where things go horribly wrong.
In 1998, the league had rebranded itself as NFL Europe. This provided the NFL a chance to try new things and test them out. Different game formats and different rules, which confused the hell out of fans who'd only just learnt the rules of the sport. The signing of big name players like William the Refrigerator Perry to try and boost the image of the sport at massive cost. And experimenting with some rather questionable jersey designs. But the biggest problem was the poor organisation of the league and some hysterically horrendous blunders. Take for example our fabled London Monarchs, who, after playing 2 seasons at Wembley, then tried to play in Tottenham's old White Hart Lane Stadium, a field that measures just 93 yards. They received special dispensation to play games in only one direction of the field. If that's not enough to piss off fans and players, how about playing the next home game 120 miles from the city that you represent? Oh yeah, they tried that too. They rebranded themselves as the England Monarchs, which was supposed to be a travelling team throughout the south of England, playing games in Birmingham, London and even Bristol. They thought that this would be a good way to spread the reach to new markets. But obviously, to me and you, this would infuriate an entire fan base, and existing fans, who didn't even know where the next game was and weren't willing to travel that far, promptly stopped showing up. After this disaster, they folded, and similar stories with equally boneheaded ideas could be heard across Europe. I mean, even the league's name was bad. The league was officially called the NFL Europa League. So, National Football League, Europe League. Yeah, that totally makes sense. In 2006, the NFL rebranded as NFL Europa, but it might as well have been called NFL Germany, as 5 of the remaining 6 teams were based in Deutschland. Thanks to the demise of the Dragons and the Claymores, and being replaced with the Cologne Centurions and the Hamburg Sea Devils. Germany was arguably where the sport was most popular, and you gotta love German fans. They're enthusiastic about their sports teams to say the least. In 2007, after the last World Bowl, new NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell objectively looked at NFL Europa. The dwindling crowds, the botched signings for marketing purposes, the lack of players coming through, the lack of interest throughout Europe except Germany, and making annual losses of about $30 million per season, which is $38 million in today's money. Roger decided to do what any CEO would have done at the time and issued a mercy killing. The league was folded.
So that's the story of NFL Europe as it happened previously. The question now is, could it work today?
Given all of its problems, NFL Europe did exactly what it was supposed to do: increase exposure of the game to Europe and develop NFL level worthy talent. Some household names developed their skills in NFL Europe: Kurt Warner, Jake Delhomme, John Kitna, James Harrison, and the NFL's leading point scorer of all time, Adam Vinatieri. The NFL in London series is popular now, not just because of the NFL and the increased coverage of the sport on TV, and the fact that they play here every year, but because of NFL Europe. Yes, the league made massive losses years ago, but the NFL are seemingly now reaping the rewards for their early efforts. They got Europeans hooked onto the game over 2 decades ago, and now they're seeing their returns, the dividends, and you really can't put a price on that. There's no reason why the league couldn't work today, so long as the mistakes that doomed the league the first time round aren't repeated. No signing players just for marketing purposes, no moving the same team around to different cities, and certainly no playing on 93-yard fields. Currently, there's no XFL or AAF to compete against, so there's no developmental league for players outside the NCAA. It's fairly easy to drum up interest if you're the only game in town. The league has already established fan bases in Germany, Netherlands, Spain and the UK. It wouldn't be too hard to replicate that in France, Italy, Poland, Ireland, and whichever European country could sustain a team or two. Costs have to be tightly controlled, especially for player and coach salaries, travel and logistics. The moment they spiral out of control is the point where the league will go belly up. Operating on a college model, where players live in dorms and live and train at the practice facility, would go a long way towards that. Income has to be lucrative. TV deals and sponsors for absolutely everything. Even quid pro quo deals such as agreements with flight companies just like the Toronto Wolfpack have with Air Transat. Impose a native quota. That's a certain percentage of players that have to be from Europe. This would go a long way to develop homegrown talent that could one day make it to the NFL. And the media coverage has to be A+. Take what the XFL just did and replicate that across Europe. There's no reason why it wouldn't get the same result. Overall, European fans are hungry for the game. London wants its own NFL team, and the NFL is toying with that idea constantly. A new NFL Europe would bridge the gap of surplus ex-college players, talented players from Europe, and function as a developmental league for the actual NFL. You can't improve as a player if you don't play, so this would provide an opportunity for those players. It's worked for these guys, it can definitely work for others. Whether the NFL will do this, given that they have all the players they need from the NCAA, is questionable. But the point is, they could if they wanted to. And it would probably work this time around.
If you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share and subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. A lot of people will be asking me, Ninh, is that a real Ryan Fire game worn jersey? Hell yes it is. It's one of my many sports jersey collectibles, and I've got hundreds just like this. No London Monarchs stuff yet, but you never know. eBay is a wonderful thing.